And that leads us to the duct system for the male, reproductive system. After we've created sperm, after sperm gets made, it has to go on to bigger and better things. We send that through a series of ducts. The ducts within the testes just transport and store the sperm as they mature. Okay, they're created there within the seminiferous tubules, but then they take time. They take time to fully mature, to fully mature for the maturation process. I wanted to say those two at the same time. For the seminiferous tubules, they go to ultimately to the epididymis, but there are a series of ducts, tubes, however you want to visualize it, that receive said sperm after leaving the seminiferous tubules. The first one are the reteat testes. The reteat testes, all they do is receive the sperm from the seminiferous tubules. That's all you really need to know, okay? Efferent ductules conduct sperm to the epididymis. It's just as we leave the seminiferous tubule, we go to the reteat testi, and then the reteat testi conduct to the epididymis. I don't really know what I would ask from the efferent ductules, so don't worry about it, okay? Reteat testi is where sperm goes after being created in the seminiferous tubule. From there, and that's all I really want you to know about that, guys. It's not just the seminiferous tubule and then boom, the epididymis. That's not how it works. It goes through a couple series of ducts, and this is all it is. The only one I'm probably going to ask on the exam, on this slide anyway, is the reteat testi, because it receives the sperm from the seminiferous tubule. The epididymis, though, this is where sperm maturation occurs. Okay. And again, what does that really mean? Well, there's the head of the sperm, and there's the mid piece, and then there's the tail. And when you look at that sperm, right? I just like using colors. When you look at that sperm, it has some cytoplasm around it, okay? And to be fully mature is to get rid of all this red stuff, all that little excess cytoplasm that surrounds the sperm, okay? And that's all that is. And that's really all that really happens here within the epididymis. It gets fully mature and motile. We get rid of all that excess cytoplasm, and then it becomes much more streamlined, faster, quicker, easier to move around, all that fun stuff. And it sits atop of the testes, okay? That's really the only two things you need to worry about the epididymis. Excuse me, gosh. From the epididymis, we go through either the ductus deferens or the vas deferens. You should know either one. They're easily interchangeable, either one. It's a duct, hence ductus deferens, okay? This is what sperm leaves as it exits from the testes, the ductus deferens or vas deferens. So this is only going to be where sperm enters during the ejaculatory process. We'll talk about that briefly at the very end of the man. Where is it? I don't really have a good picture of it here for you, but again, the ductus deferens leaves the epididymis. Oh, here it is right here, okay? Here it is. Here's the epididymis, okay? Leaves the epididymis, and here it is right here. In this region right here, it's traveling up through the what's called the spermatic cord. Spermatic cord is what carries the testicular artery, vein, and nerve, lymphatic system, all that stuff exits out of the abdominal cavity through this spermatic cord. And that is showing it right here. Enters into the abdominal cavity, and there it is. It enlarges right where it gets ready to end, and that's referred to as the ampulla. This is traveling behind the bladder. Okay. And as it ends, as the vas deferens ends, it's going to meet the prostate gland. That enlargement is referred to as the ampulla. where the prostate gland and the vas deferens meet up, they form what's called the ejaculatory duct. What's the ejaculatory duct? Conducts sperm and seminal fluid towards the urethra. Ta-da! There you go. And this ejaculatory duct opens up into the prostatic urethra. And there's the prostatic urethra right there. Okay. So here is my vas deferens coming on up. Travels behind the urinary bladder. It enlarges as the ampulla. Its duct merges with the seminal vesicle right there to form the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct opens up into the prostatic urethra. So right where the vas deferens meets the prostate gland, you get the ejaculatory duct. It's a fusion of the seminal vesicle and the end of the vas deferens. The ejaculatory duct gets sperm and some seminal fluid from the seminal vesicle into the prostatic urethra, which now can enter the spongy urethra or penile urethra, and which can now go to wherever it's going to go. The urethra, we saw it with the urinary system, transports both urine and semen. We have three portions of the urethra: portion that runs through the prostate, portion that runs through the urogenital diaphragm, and a portion that runs through the penis itself. Spongy urethra is the part that runs through the penis. It's also referred to as the penile urethra in some textbooks. The corpus spongiosum is the erectile tissue of this region. So corpus spongiosum, spongy urethra. That's how you can remember those. Membranous urethra is just this little bitty portion right here. It runs through the urogenital diaphragm. What is that region, you ask? It's just a muscular layer that helps with the propulsion of sperm through the penis. Prostatic urethra is right here, and it's the part that extends from the bladder through the prostate gland. Okay. When we talk about the urethra in a male, we talk about it in these three different parts. When we talk about it in the female, you generally just refer to it as the urethra. Okay. Even though they have a urogenital diaphragm. Okay. The urethra in a female, again, much more shorter, as we saw earlier. No prostate, obviously. No penis, obviously. So we don't break it down into the subsequent parts like we do the male. Seminal fluid is a collection of various different accessory gland secretions. These accessory gland secretions help to buffer acids, reduce the acidity of the vagina, give it nutrients for its path, aid it in getting through uric acid, urea that may exist within the urethra itself in the male. So they do a number of different things. What are the accessory glands, you ask? Well, we already saw a couple of them. Seminal vesicles, paired. Prostate gland, one big one right underneath the bladder. And then lastly, some paired bulbourethral glands. Okay, so let's look at these guys. Seminal vesicles, we find them on the posterior aspect of the bladder. Okay, and like I said just a little bit ago, they meet the enlarged ductus deferens, the enlarged end of the ductus deferens, to form that ejaculatory duct there. It secretes some fun things. It's an alkaline fluid, so it helps to buffer against acidity. But it secretes an alkaline fluid with fructose in it. Fructose is going to help nourish the sperm on its travel. It has to travel a very long distance through the male reproductive tract and through the female reproductive tract. Okay, so that requires a heck of a lot of ATP to do that. The other thing that this alkaline fluid has in its secretion is some prostaglandins. Prostaglandins do a number of various things throughout the body. Here, it promotes the widening of the cervical opening. There have been a number of studies shown that sometimes females and males, when couples have difficulties conceiving, that it's a female, immune response, if you will, to the male secretions. And one of those things that clamps down really hard to prevent an infection is the cervix closes up shop. Why? Not exactly. I've never seen anything as to why that's the case. I know they do research on it to try to figure it out, but it's pretty interesting there in that regard. So, seminal vesicles, the first accessory structure that we have here, secretes a alkaline fluid that has fructose in it to supply energy for the journey, and prostaglandins to open the door, if you will, open the cervix. The next accessory gland is the prostate. Of all of these, this is the one you probably have heard and know the most about. It is smooth, it is shaped like a walnut, and it is inferior to the bladder. Okay? You can easily palpate and feel it with a digital rectal exam, the DRE. That's really the only way to truly assess it. It secretes a unique fluid. It has seminal plasmin in it. It has citric acid in it. It also has this stuff called PSA, prostate-specific antigen. All of these do a number of different things. Citric acid helps to provide nourishment to the sperm. Fructose is what really is doing it for the long term. This citric acid helps for the sperm health itself. Seminal plasmin is an antibiotic, and it gets secreted, excuse me, it gets secreted into the duct to kind of combat any bacteria that are within the urethra itself. The PSA is a enzyme, and prostate-specific antigen is kind of unique. It helps to liquefy semen. This is what helps to really get it mobile and moving. You could test for PSA. Supposedly, PSA is elevated with prostate cancer. That's not always the case. So just because you have a high PSA doesn't necessarily you have cancer. And just because you don't have a high PSA doesn't mean you don't have cancer. Really, the only truly way to diagnose prostate cancer is with the digital rectal exam. So palpate it, you stick your finger in there, you palpate it through the anus there, palpate it, and it will feel nice and smooth. If it's nodular or spiky, rocky feeling, then further testing is going to be warranted. PSA test, imaging studies, all that fun stuff to try to figure out if it's truly cancerous or benign prostatic hypertrophy. The last accessory gland we have is the bulbourethral gland. The bulbourethral gland is found within that urogenital diaphragm. It has an older name called Cowper's, but they don't use that anymore. So bulbourethral gland is the only name I will accept. Paired, there's one on each side, again, in each part of the, in each half of the body. It produces a kind of clear, viscous mucus, basically. It helps to lubricate the urethra, helps to lubricate the tip of the penis. This is what helps to, this is what first gets secreted when a guy gets excited. This is that first little secretion that comes out of the tip of the penis after male excitement there with sex. Collectively, sperm, bulbourethral gland secretions, prostate secretions, and seminal vesicle or seminal gland secretions, all of these collectively give us semen. It's referred to as semen, and then when you eject it during sex, we refer to it as the ejaculate. And you have anywhere between 200 and 500 million spermatozoa within an ejaculate. Anything below that is considered extremely low. And you have to figure out what the issue is to try to boost your sperm count numbers.